So far, the corruption cases filed by government are not progressing as speedily as they should, in spite of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015, essentially because the courts allow some lawyers to frustrate the reforms introduced by law. This certainly needs to change if we have to make success of our collective effort in the fight against corruption.
President Muhammadu Buhari speaking during an anti-corruption summit in Abuja last week, where he expressed worry over what he calls the delay of corruption cases before various courts across the country. The president called the attention of Nigerians to deferred corruption cases as well as the role of judges in the fight against corruption. Today on the program, we will beam our searchlight on whether or not the judiciary has been a clog in the wheel of the president's progress in the fight against corruption. Welcome to the program. I'm Victor Matthias. But before we begin, let's see what the online community was saying in the past week. The burial of a slain evangelist, Eunice Olawale, got Nigerians all emotional, and they took to their accounts to mourn with the family and urge the federal government to ensure that those responsible are brought to book. Nigerians expressed displeasure over the fact that athletes representing the country in the Rio 2016 Olympic Games have been asked to buy their own tickets. This revelation came to the fore when athletes like Shea Ogunlere Jr. and Regina George started social media campaigns soliciting for funds from Nigerians. However, in a swift reaction, the Minister of Sports via his Facebook page denied the allegation, insisting that no athlete was told to buy his or her ticket to the global showpiece next month. Well, that's how that cookie crumbled. Moving forward, joining me today is a lawyer, Wale Muniz, from Lagos, Nigeria. Ayo Shogunro, a lawyer also. He joins us from Nottingham in the United Kingdom. A journalist who joins from Ilorin in north-central Nigeria, and Modupe Odile, who joins from New York in the United States. Oh, I forgot to mention that she is also a lawyer. Thanks to you all for coming. Now we have gentlemen and a lady, and as the saying goes, ladies first. So Modupe, do the honors and kickstart this conversation by telling us how much you think the judiciary has done in the fight against corruption.
You know, when I thought about this topic, I thought about the fact that it's a very wide-ranging topic, because I mean, the judiciary on the whole, if you really want to describe what the function of the judiciary is really to interpret the laws, right? That's what the judiciary is supposed to be. So it's supposed to be like the hope of the common man when it comes to justice, basically. But then when you talk about corruption, which has deep-seated issues in Nigeria, it's systematic in the sense that the judiciary is only one part of a system. So you have a system where you talk about police prosecution, police arrest and investigation, and then you talk about prosecution itself. Before you actually come to the courts and get to the judiciary themselves, which are judges, you have to go through the whole court process that consists of court officials and workers and all that, and then you get to the judiciary, and then you get back to the police, which is also like implementation of whatever, you know, decisions the judiciary has reached. So it's really sort of difficult, and I know that we have, you know, some of my colleagues here would probably have better answers than I do, but it's really sort of difficult to handpick the judiciary and say, you know, these are specifically the role they have to fight, the role they have to play in anti-corruption.
The issue of resolving crime, the entire process of criminal justice doesn't start in the court system. It starts with the policing, the investigating and the prosecuting, or rather, let's just say it starts with the policing systems. If your policing systems are all right, you're already a step ahead of the criminal elements in society. From policing, you go into investigation and gathering evidence. That's where the issue of forensics and things come in. Once you have that compiled, you transfer from the police sector to the legal sector. You need prosecutors who are skilled at their jobs. You need prosecutors who are dedicated to their jobs. You need prosecutors who know how to win cases, who know all the hooks and crooks in the book on winning cases. You need prosecutors who can do that. When all that is done, you are practically winning the case. At the end, the judge is going to only deal with what is presented before him. The judge cannot just simply convict a person because the police think that person is guilty.
The fight against corruption is big in Nigeria. And corruption, it begins from me and you. The average Nigerian has corners. I have to be corrupt from all arms. Now check it out. The judiciary has done so well in the fight against corruption. We have the EFCC who can prosecute, the ICPC and other bodies. But imagine what the law, the constraint the judges or the judiciary has is we have to follow suit what the law, the provision of the law. If you bring an evidence before the court sees everybody as innocent until proven guilty. When you bring weak evidences before the judge, it's going to adjudicate upon that, and you tend to see now in Nigeria, we say the rich people get to work freely while the poor people get to be in prison and all. It's just based on evidence. You're trying to nail someone for embezzling like as high as 20 billion naira, and you bring just one document or incomplete or inconclusive document. As lawyers, too, we have our own part to play. It's not on the onus to prove guilt is not on the person who is accused. It's on the person accusing the other party. If you get my point here, and if you accuse someone of being corrupt or you bring flimsy evidences, definitely the person will walk now.
All right, that being said, Ayo, how will you react to the president's statement on how the judiciary, by delaying cases, has not helped his fight against corruption?
Yes, thank you, Victor. I found that statement by the president a bit interesting because it kind of shows to us the reasoning style or the reasoning mindset of the president. And I'm sorry to say it's not an encouraging type of reasoning. It's something that seems to be a vestigial, aspect of the president's military background and the way he handled tribunals and cases back in the 80s when he was dealing with corrupt politicians of the Shagari regime. So for me, it's as though the president believes that the work should be a case of, oh, this man has been accused of corruption, and the judge should just say, oh, you've been accused of corruption, I slammed 20 years imprisonment on you, send him away. Next. That's the way and in a way that's the way military tribunals tend to work. In 1, 2, 3 days they may dispose to 20 cases, 30 cases, and that's because again these people do not understand the ideals of justice. That justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. And if you are going to make a process transparent, it takes time. Any transaction, any transaction that is so hurried would often have an element of injustice involved in it. And so the justice process often takes that slow grinding of wheels. Everybody presents your own side of the story, and ultimately you get there. The problem we have in Nigeria is that our courts are ill-equipped generally to handle the burden of cases they are faced with. Corruption cases are not the only cases an average judge has to deal with.
All right, guys, just hold your thoughts for a second. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue that in a moment. Stay with us.